The Denver Broncos and Sean Payton were right all along? What? That doesn't fit the national media narrative that he's an egomaniac and his players don't like playing for him and that the Denver Broncos are a clown show. Well, it fits the narrative here, and it is great news for Denver Broncos fans. I've got so much to break down in this video because today Courtland Sutton appeared on the DNVR podcast, and it was by far the best piece of off-season NFL content that I've seen in lots of seasons. It was cool to watch Russell Wilson on Brandon Marshall's show, even though he trashed our team. But what DNVR did today with Courtland Sutton just blew that off of the map, and there is great news in there for the future of the Broncos. If you want Sean Payton to work, you have great news in that. If you think Bo Nix is the future, well, guess what? So does Courtland Sutton. And not just like the future, like 3-4 years down the line, like he's our future now. And we're going to break down why he thinks that. So obviously, the massive news of the day is that Sean Payton was right. Sean Payton said, Courtland Sutton will be back. I expect him to be back. He's been constantly downplaying the Courtland Sutton holdout, and it wasn't even a holdout. He just didn't come to a voluntary thing when he had a good thing cooking. He just got married, and he did not show up. And so many of the people who lead with pessimism, the people who want Sean Payton to fail for some reason, they've been saying like, oh, we'll see. And I think they wanted Courtland Sutton to hold out. They wanted egg on Sean Payton's face, but Sean Payton was right. The Denver Broncos were right. And Courtland Sutton today announced in that incredible interview on DNVR that he is back, baby. And I think that really, there's so many things he said in there that I have said, and people have been like, oh, you are an idiot. We're not good. The Broncos are going to be 5 and they're just going to be horrible, right? The national media is saying that. And Courtland Sutton came out and took like my audacious claims and took them to like the next level. Like even if I had a tall ladder, my claims were not as high as Courtland Sutton's claims that he made today about the Denver Broncos not just being at least as good as 8 wins, but he said, I think we can get to 11 wins. We have the right talent. He said, we have the right coaches. He said, we have the culture here. And it's just fantastic news that Sean Payton was right. And that, then when he says stuff like, oh, I think Dulcich is going to be back, let's not take that with pessimism. If he said it, let's believe him, because I feel like Sean Payton has been upfront with us, and I cannot think of a time that he's lied to us as Broncos fans. That if he says it for a reason, and if he has a fault with his communication to the media, he might withhold information. Like we didn't hear about the Drew Sanders Achilles injury for an entire month after it. But when he says stuff like Courtland's going to be back, and then Courtland's like, I'm coming back, then when he says Audric Estime is going to be back and I'm not worried about it, let's just take that for what it is. Because, again, when he says, hey, Bo Nix is picking up this offense faster than I thought, well, let's believe it. If anything, he would want to downplay it. So here is the massive moment from that Courtland Sutton interview. Again, go watch the whole thing. At first, I was getting very irritated. Now, in hindsight, I'll watch it like 10 times because it was incredible. But it's a 30-minute interview. And the first 6 minutes, they're just lobbing him softballs, literally about his baseball charity game. And I was like, oh my goodness, these guys, Todd Davis is a former player. He's not going to ask him a hard question. Zach Stevens, is he going to ask him a hard question? Well, they finally got to it. And so I was thrilled that they got to it. And they got to it in a way where he was loosened up, and he didn't even mention his contract, didn't even mention like, oh, yeah, I got some things to get worked out with my contract. He constantly, from the jump, referred to the team as we, referred to, hey, the ceiling is high. We got so much better from 5 wins. We had the most wins that we've had the past 7 years last year. And he said, that's just our new floor. Our new floor is 8 wins, and that should have us extremely excited. So here is him dropping the major bomb, and credit to Zach Stevens for asking the question we all were hoping he was going to ask.
Are you going to be at mandatory minicamp next week?
I will be there.
Are you going to be at mandatory minicamp next week? Yes, I will be there. So no, yeah, I'll be there. My contract stuff needs to get worked out. He believes in this team, and we see that. Just read or listen to the entire interview. Look at his tweet saying, hey, my goal is to win a Super Bowl with the Denver Broncos. Not my goal used to be, or he even talking about Russell Wilson and him thinking that Russell Wilson has a big future. He never mentioned, I want to go play there. And so all of this hype around his Fresh Prince of Bel-Air tweet and removing things from his Twitter profile. All of that was massively overblown, and he's back and he is bought in. Other crazy thing about just watching this entire interview was that he's been in contact with Bo Nix, and he didn't ever hedge on Bo Nix. So when they asked about Bo Nix, he constantly talked about him as if he was the starter for the Denver Broncos this year. Courtland is getting up there in age and obviously coming towards the end of his guaranteed money with the Denver Broncos. And so if there was any potential that this was Zach Wilson's team this year, or if there's any potential it was Jarrett Stidham's team this year, hearing from our wide receiver one, just talking about how looped in he's been in this entire OTAs. Even though he has not physically been there, he constantly talked about, I just loved what I was seeing. I loved seeing how Sean Payton plans on using Bo Nix in this offense. I'm starting to understand the routes that Sean Payton is hoping for with this offense and where I'm going to fit in that. And so it's cool that he hasn't just been ghosting the Denver Broncos out in Florida. No, he's probably been enjoying being a newly married dude out where he's got a home. And that's all there is to it. Again, the way he was hyping up this team, the way he talked about what this offense could accomplish, I'm just incredibly, incredibly excited about it. Again, here it is. I have so much faith and confidence in my team that we can get back to the playoffs. So throw that 5-win prediction from the national media and from all of the online gambling websites out the door, because it's not me saying it. It is your wide receiver one who has every reason to be salty towards this team. He sees Jerry Jeudy get more money than him. He sees Justin Jefferson. He sees new deals coming down for Jamar Chase. CeeDee Lamb are getting a massive bag. And he sees that. And so he has more of a reason to be pessimistic towards the future of this team than I do, obviously. Yet he is more glowing than I am, even. That, I would hope the Denver Broncos make it back to the playoffs. But I'm just saying, I think 7 wins is our absolute low rock bottom floor. And he's taken that up another level entirely. And that's very, very exciting. Again, a lot of news coming out that, we'd wondered, has he talked to Bo Nix? And he's talked to him multiple times. And he said Bo Nix has an entire aura about him, which I think is crazy, that he has a leader mentality and aura that he carries. And he talked about even going and watching him. He's watched a ton of his college tape. And that's just incredibly, incredibly exciting news for the Denver Broncos. And this is a fantastic tweet here by Kinley DB for life, I guess. And just talking about the fact that there is no hedging here. He wasn't even trying to be political whatsoever in any of his answers and saying, well, yeah, but we really like Jarrett too. We really like Zach Wilson too. The entire talk centered around how Bo Nix and him are going to click and how he can step in and be a leader here for Bo Nix. So this is incredibly exciting news. And I think the most exciting part of all of this is just that the Sean Payton culture that we have been hoping is being built. We're just seeing more and more evidence that what Sean Payton tried to build, he is building, that he has a media lockdown, and he's got more independent contractors out there who aren't tweeting everything that happens, and there's not film crews there who are putting everything out there, that he's moving in silence. And he talks about the contagious young energy that we have there. And a lot of us wondered, hey, is Courtland Sutton going to step in and hurt that contagious energy? And I think a lot of us had a poll up, and 70% of you wanted Courtland Sutton back. I made that 71% because I desperately wanted him back. And the people who voted no, the 30% who voted no, their caveat was, I think he crushes the vibes. And that is no longer even a question for me, that his vibes are here and he is invested in this team, and he bleeds orange and blue just like all of us do. And so go out and buy that number 14 new Denver Broncos jersey, because he is going to be here and he is going to be paired with our future franchise quarterback. And that is something that we should definitely believe. This one's for Court. Oh man, I'm just ruining stuff. It's a low ceiling.